Hello everybody, this is JT Productions and welcome back to another preview and prediction video. Today I'll be doing the South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina had a pretty above average year last year. Shane Beamer's predicted win total for 2022 was 6, I think, 5.5, 6, and he won 8 games, sorry. And not without a slow start first, though. They started out 1-2 with a win against Georgia State, and then two were tough losses against Arkansas, and then a big blowout loss against Georgia, win against Charlotte and South Carolina State, and then they got a big win that really turned their season around at Kentucky. This game, Kentucky was coming off a big loss to Ole Miss, where Will Levis was injured in and was out of this game against South Carolina, and they just looked dominant against Kentucky, which was surprising because Kentucky's usually the one that is dominating you and playing their brand of football, but South Carolina just came and ran the ball down their throat. After the bye week, they got their first ever win against Texas A&M since they've been in the SEC, which showed that this South Carolina team could be elite. Then a couple of head-scratching games. A loss at home on homecoming to Missouri, 23-10, really just didn't look right after that big win at home against Texas A&M. Then they got a close win, 38-27 against Vanderbilt in Nashville, before coming back home and not scoring one offensive point against Florida in Gainesville. So, I mean, it was interesting. But they finished their season strong, at least regular season-wise, with a big win against top 5 Tennessee at home, 63-38. One of the most surprising game wins of the season for South Carolina. Shook up the SEC, pretty much single-handedly kept Tennessee out of the playoffs. So a lot of other college football fans will thank South Carolina for that. Then the next week, they went on the road and broke Clemson's home game winning streak, beating them 31-30, beating them for the first time since 2014 or something like that. And it was crazy. It was the craziest 2-week span for South Carolina football in a while. Then in their bowl game against Notre Dame, they put up a good fight, but they just struggled against the outside run game against Notre Dame. Even with, I think, 2 pick sixes that their defense got, they lost 45-38. But all in all, it was a great season for South Carolina. Their Shane Beamer's second 8-win season in a row. And if he can stop losing those head-scratching games, he could be around 10 wins one of these years. So, with that being said, let's go into the depth chart. So, South Carolina bring back Spencer Rattler for his redshirt senior season. Spencer Rattler last year started the season abysmally. You could see him being like a deer in the headlights against Georgia and just not looking like the 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. Now, near the end of the year, he did turn it on, especially in the games against against Tennessee and Clemson, but that's just not enough for me to absolutely say, oh, he's going to be a Heisman contender. But he's still a very talented quarterback. The running game, you lost your running back to USC, Southern California. I forget his name. Gosh, what was his name? Anyways, you still have Juju McDowell, who was your backup last year. You got redshirt senior transfer Mario Anderson coming in from Newberry College. And you have DeCarrion Joyner, who is on his third position on South Carolina. He started out as a quarterback, went to wide receiver, and now he's at running back. You have Dontavius Braswell, a freshman, and Dante Miller. Wide receivers, Antoine Wells is going to be a great piece for y'all. Y'all still have Xavier Legette. Y'all have some freshmen coming in. You also have a graduate transfer, Eddie Lewis, coming in from Memphis by way of Butler Community College and Rutgers. And you got Trey Knox, a graduate transfer coming in from Arkansas. He was a good piece of the Arkansas offense. That was not really the best last year, but he was a good piece. You have Joshua Simon, graduate transfer from Western Kentucky. And you got Nick Elkinsness coming in from Florida. I didn't even know that kid, so we'll see what he can do on South Carolina. Their offensive line is pretty veteran besides the right tackle, redshirt sophomore transfer from Western Illinois. But besides that, they have a lot of their guys back on the offensive line. So their offense, even though they're under a new offensive coordinator from last year, we'll see how they can do this year. On the defensive side, you have a lot of guys that have been here for at least a year or so. Some guys that kind of stand out to me are T.J. Sanders at D-tackle, Jordan Stockton at defensive end, Mohamed Kaba, Debo Williams, and Marcellus Dial. Other than that, your defense is pretty veteran. I would say the youngest guys on your team are Nick Manworry, DQ Smith, which he was good last year, and TJ Sanders. So besides that, I would say your team is pretty decent for SEC standards. Not any of the big boys, however, they still have some pieces that can get them some advantages on the field. So with that being said, let's just jump right into the schedule and see how I think you're going to go this year. You start out with a big non-conference game against North Carolina. The last time you and North Carolina played was in 2019 when you lost to Sam Howell and them. Now, that game, Jake Bentley, your starting quarterback, was injured, and Ryan Helinski took over. Now, safe to say you lost this game back then, but between this and the Clemson game, I think y'all are going to go 1-1. I think y'all are going to win this one. It's early in the year. Drake May is back for North Carolina. However, that defense is going to have to improve a lot for them to be successful with Drake May. So I think you start out the season with a big win against North Carolina in Charlotte to go to 1-0 before coming back home to play Furman. Furman, I think you're going to be able to handle easily. I mean, it's lower classification. It's not going to be that hard. Then you go on the road to Athens to play the Georgia Bulldogs. This one is going to be an uphill battle for the Gamecocks, especially. You're playing the number one team in their home stadium. You've won there once since Kirby has gotten there, and besides that has been your only win. I don't think you're going to be able to win this game. If you won it, it would be a huge upset. So I think you drop your first game here to drop to 2-1. Then you come back home to play Mississippi State. And this is going to be an interesting game. Will Rogers, Spencer Rattler, defensive-minded head coach, and Zach Arnett. I think this is going to be a close one, but I think South Carolina will be able to squeak it out. That home environment is going to be wild for this game. Both home environments, Mississippi State's and South Carolina's, are very underrated. I think that the Gamecocks do get the better of the Bulldogs and go to 3-1. Then you travel to Tennessee. This is going to be a revenge game for the Volunteers. They're going to be wanting a piece of South Carolina after ruining their chances at a playoff. And I think that you lose here. I think that Joe Milton in that offense is going to be too much. While I think you sort of cracked the code last year, later in the year, that was later in the year, and I guarantee you that Josh Heupel is going to be finding new wrinkles to implement in this offense to stop South Carolina and to score on that vaunted defense. And you also don't have Cam Smith nor, what's the other guy's name? The other corner you had last year anymore. So that's going to be a tough battle against Squirrel White, Brew McCoy, and Ramil Keaton and wide receivers like that for the Volunteers. So I have you dropping this game before the bye week to go in 3-2. Coming out of it, though, you play Florida. This is going to be a revenge game for South Carolina, in my opinion. Florida, they lose Anthony Richardson. They're just not a very talented football team right now in regards to known talent. They have some young guys in there that could turn into some vital pieces to their team, but with Graham Mertz at quarterback and facing a quarterback like Spencer Rattler, I just think that South Carolina is going to be able to get the win here. So you go to 4-2 before having back-to-back road games against Missouri and against Texas A&M. This is a tough back-to-back road stretch. I don't care what you say about Missouri. They are turning into a very physical ball club, and it's going to be tough because at this point in the season, besides Georgia, Spencer Rattler has not faced a defense like this, as physical as this. And I think it's going to bite you, and I think you lose both of these road games right here. It's just such a physical game with both these teams. And even with the win last year, I think that there's going to be a mental aspect to the game against Texas A&M with South Carolina only having one win against the Aggies since they joined the SEC in 2012. And with Bobby Petrino coming in to be the new OC at Texas A&M, I think it's going to help them a lot. And with Missouri, they just have a lot of defensive pieces that are going to be vital to their success. Brady Cook coming into a new season, I think he's going to improve from last year. They got good running back, I forgot his name, and they got Luther Burden, who's a big piece. I do think you lose these back-to-back road games to go to 4-4, though. Then you come out of that, come back home to play Jacksonville State, new Group of 5 team in the Conference USA. I think you win this game easily. You're not Florida State from 2 years ago. I'll say that. Then Vanderbilt comes down to play you at your place. This is going to be a tough game, interesting game at that. Vanderbilt has been able to stick with the games against South Carolina, Missouri, even Kentucky to an extent over the last couple of seasons. And they could nip one of them in the bud this year. But I do think that you're going to be able to squeak out a win here. Vanderbilt is getting there under Coach Clark Lee, but I just don't think that they're there yet. It's tough for them to even win one SEC game, and they won 2 last year. So I think you win this game to go to 6-4. Then you have 2 more back-to-back tough games. You get these at home, though. You have Kentucky coming to town. They have Devin Leary now at quarterback. They have 3 young, good wide receivers. Their defense is still vaunted. Liam Combs back. I think that's going to be just too much for you, and I think you drop this game to go to 6-5. And then you have the Clemson game. Clemson's going to be wanting to get revenge from last year. Cade Klubnik's back. And you have Garrett Riley coming in to be the OC. I think at this point, Clemson may have dropped some games, but this is going to be the best that they're going to be of the season, especially against you. So I think you're going to drop this game to drop to 6-6. Now, South Carolina fans are not going to want to see 6 wins, but with your schedule and how things are going right now, I would not be surprised if you won one of the games against Missouri or Texas A&M, or both of them, and then lost both the Kentucky and Clemson game. But it's just tough to predict right now with South Carolina being such a volatile team. But I think that Shane Beamer's got this team going in the right place. And even if you do drop to 6 wins instead of 8 wins, there's always room for improvement. So anyways, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and Go Dogs.